Picture a road billed as the highest continuous paved road in the United States, climbing past tree line into open alpine tundra, cresting at over 12,000 feet before it drops back down the other side of the Continental Divide. That's just the drive in. This is Rocky Mountain National Park. Rocky Mountain National Park sits in northern Colorado, split by the Continental Divide. Estes Park anchors the busier east side, home to the entrance station that sees the most visitor traffic, while Grand Lake anchors the quieter west side. From Denver, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours to the east side entrances, depending on route. It covers 415 square miles, 807 acres of mountain meadows, alpine lakes, and peaks that top out above 14,000 feet. The park is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, though winter closes some roads and facilities. In 2025 alone, it drew just over 4.17 million visitors, the sixth most of any national park in the country. Rocky Mountain National Park became official on January 26, 1915, when President Woodrow Wilson signed it into law. But the park almost didn't happen without one particular person pushing for it. Enos Mills, a naturalist and lodge owner who'd made his home in the Longs Peak Valley, spent years crisscrossing the country lecturing, writing thousands of letters and articles, and lobbying Congress directly. He wanted a place where, in his words, thousands of families will find rest and hope. Months after the law passed, the park held a formal dedication ceremony on September 4, 1915, with Mills there alongside the state governor and other officials who'd helped make it happen. People, though, had been in this landscape long before any of that. Humans first arrived roughly 11,000 years ago, and the Ute tribe used the valleys, meadows, and lakes here for generations without ever settling year-round, remaining the dominant presence into the late 1700s. The U.S. picked up the land through the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. A Rufus Sage account gave the outside world its first written description of the area in 1843, and the Pikes Peak Gold Rush of 1859 brought the area's first wave of miners. Homesteaders followed in the 1860s. Decades later, during the Great Depression, the Civilian Conservation Corps built the park's most famous road, Trail Ridge Road, and in the 1960s, a nationwide construction push called Mission 66 built the visitor centers still in use today. Here's something wild. 2 rock formations in this park are separated by more than 1 billion years. Most of Rocky Mountain's bedrock is Precambrian granite and gneiss, dated at 1.4 to 1.7 billion years old. That includes Longs Peak itself, built from silver plume granite, roughly 1.4 billion years old. The mountains you're looking at got their shape more recently. Geologically speaking, they were pushed up around 70 million years ago during a mountain building period called the Laramide Orogeny, but drive to the park's western edge into the Never Summer Range, and the rock underfoot is barely 27 to 29 million years old, the youngest bedrock in the park and the only volcanic rock in it. It's basaltic andesite, rhyolite lava, and ash flow tuff, the easternmost trace of a massive volcanic event called the Ignimbrite flare-up that reshaped much of western North America between about 40 and 20 million years ago. Scientists trace it back to melting in the upper mantle, mixed with crustal material and shaped by magmatic differentiation as magma drew from different depths, which is why the rock composition shifts across successive eruptions. Peaks across the park range from 11,000 to 14,000 feet, with Longs Peak the tallest at 14,256 feet, towering roughly 1.7 miles above the surrounding lowlands. Start with Trail Ridge Road, 48 miles connecting Grand Lake and Estes Park, and by NPS's own description, the highest continuous paved road in the United States, topping out at 12,183 feet. Part of the drive crosses open alpine tundra, above where trees can grow at all. It's seasonal, typically open late May through mid-October, and can close without warning if weather turns at elevation. Near the top, the Alpine Visitor Center sits at 11,196 feet, the highest elevation visitor center anywhere in the national park system. If you'd rather skip the pavement, Old Fall River Road is the original route. 9.4 unpaved miles built between 1913 and 1920, climbing from the Endo Valley picnic area up to the same Fall River Pass summit. For something calmer, Bear Lake is a short, easy walk from its parking area, about 9.2 miles down Bear Lake Road from the Trail Ridge Road junction, and rewards you with views of the lake itself framed by Hallett Peak and the surrounding mountains. And then there's Long's Peak, the park's highest point at 14,256 feet, and a serious undertaking for hikers who attempt its keyhole route. In a monitored 2002 season, roughly 35,000 people hiked the approach trail, and about 9,600 of them made it all the way to the summit. Most of those summits landing in August and September, though NPS notes that year's unusually hot, dry conditions may not be typical of a normal season. This park's wildlife story is really a story about intervention. Take elk. By 1890, hunting had all but wiped them out of this area. In 1913 and 1914, wildlife managers transplanted 49 elk from Yellowstone to rebuild the population. It worked, maybe too well. Numbers climbed so high by the late 1990s that the elk started damaging vegetation, and today the park actively manages toward a winter target of 600 to 800 elk in the low valleys. A big bull can weigh 1,100 pounds and stand 5 feet at the shoulder during the fall rut, and its antlers, grown fresh every year, then shed each winter, can grow up to an inch a day. Bighorn sheep tell a rockier story. Around 1,000 lived in the park when it was established in 1915. Poor winter habitat and disease from nearby domestic livestock crashed that number to about 200 by 1970. The population climbed back to nearly 700 by 1989. Then a suspected pneumonia outbreak in the mid-1990s knocked it back down to roughly 360 by 2004. A study that collared 59 ewes found that while most lambs survive their first 3 months, 89%, only about a quarter make it to a full year old, with biologists warning that without improved reproduction and survival, the population could decline further. Black bears are surprisingly rare here. A multi-year study estimated the park's entire bear population at just 20 to 24 animals, one of the lowest population densities ever recorded for the species anywhere. Interestingly, the bears that are here have gotten heavier and healthier over time, likely from getting into human food sources, which creates its own problem, since food-habituated bears often end up having to be euthanized. And then there's the park's newest resident, the moose. There's no evidence of a sustained moose breeding population in Colorado before the 1860s, when the only historical record is a single moose killed near Estes Park. Colorado wildlife managers released a dozen moose a year into an area just west of the park in 1978 and 1979, and the first moose was actually seen inside Rocky Mountain National Park in 1980. By 2025, that population had grown to an estimated 240 moose, about 1 in every 15 moose in the entire state of Colorado, and they've spread from their original foothold in the Kawaniche Valley into nearly every drainage in the park. A one-day vehicle pass runs $30 or $35 for 7 days. If you're on foot or bike, it's $15 for 1 day or $20 for a week, and a park-specific annual pass is $70. 5 visitor centers cover the park: Beaver Meadows, open year-round near the main east entrance; Fall River, on the way in from the east; Kawaniche on the quieter west side; the high-altitude Alpine Visitor Center; and the family-oriented Moraine Park Discovery Center on Bear Lake Road. For camping, there are 5 campgrounds: Aspen Glen, Glacier Basin, Timber Creek, and Moraine Park, all run on reservations through recreation.gov, bookable up to 6 months out, while Long's Peak Campground is tents only and first come, first served. Weather here changes fast. Summer days often reach the 70s or 80s, dropping into the 40s at night, with afternoon thunderstorms that can knock 10 to 20 degrees off the temperature without much warning. It can even snow above 9,400 feet in July. Fall brings clearer, drier air, while winter turns serious. High country overnight trips call for gear rated to 35 below zero or colder. If skiing or snowshoeing is the goal, January through March is prime season, and it's genuinely a tale of two sides. The east, around Estes Park, gets about 13 inches of precipitation a year, while the west side, near Grand Lake, gets closer to 20. One more thing to plan around: starting May 22nd, most of the park requires a timed entry reservation between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., running through October 12th, and the Bear Lake Road corridor requires one from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m., running through October 18th. Each reservation costs a $2 booking fee through recreation.gov. Just off the road to Endo Valley sits something that looks like a natural boulder field with water cascading through it, the alluvial fan. It isn't natural at all. On July 15, 1982, an earthen structure called the Lawn Lake Dam failed, sending 674 acre-feet of water crashing down the roaring river at a peak flow of 18,000 cubic feet per second. The flood killed 3 people and caused roughly $31 million in damage, and its force even triggered a second dam failure downstream at Cascade Lake, making the surge worse. The river channel was scoured up to 50 feet deep and 300 feet wide. Where all that sediment finally settled, it built a 42-acre fan containing 10 million cubic feet of material, big enough to dam the Fall River and create a brand-new 17-acre lake. The whole flood reached Lake Estes, 12.5 miles downstream, in a little over 3 hours. Today, a rebuilt, fully accessible trail with a 56-foot bridge lets you walk right up to what that disaster left behind. In October 2020, the East Troublesome Fire tore through the park, burning about 22,768 acres. It ignited October 14th, and within a week had traveled roughly 18 miles west before jumping the Continental Divide entirely, spotting embers over 1.5 miles ahead of the main fire. Evacuations began in Grand Lake on October 21st and spread through the whole Estes Valley the next day. The fire damaged housing, offices, entrance stations, trails, campsites, bridges, and historic buildings. In the years since, park crews have treated 34 miles of trail for invasive plants, stabilized 30 miles of eroding trail, replaced 7 multi-use bridges and 35 footbridges, cleared hazard trees from 68 acres, and relocated 10 unsafe backcountry campsites, all despite pandemic-era hiring constraints. As of this recording, the park remains under Stage 2 fire restrictions banning all campfires and including charcoal because of very high fire danger. From a road that climbs above the clouds, to a mountain a billion years in the making, to a lake that shouldn't exist, Rocky Mountain National Park packs a lot into 415 square miles. Next time, we're headed to Yosemite. Subscribe so you don't miss it.